Morning. It's Monday, November 16th, and I have some interesting facts, some numbers that will interest you about the election results, about the presidential election results. Because when you look at these numbers, you recognize the shape of this country. Now, I'm not talking about the shape that it's in, and the areas in this country where different populations live. These facts paint an entirely different picture of the makeup of the United States. The United States has an annual GDP of over $20 trillion. That's an astronomical number. Most people couldn't even write that number down. And we have 50 states in this country, and a population of roughly 325 million people live in this country. And so in the presidential results, when we look at the gross numbers, Biden had more than 78.5 million votes, and Trump had almost 73 million votes. Those are the raw numbers. And Biden won 306 electoral votes, and Trump had 230 something. But there are other numbers that lay underneath this, and they paint an entirely different picture of this election. Did you know that there are almost 3,000 counties in the United States? And Biden amassed his totals from 477 counties. And Donald Trump amassed his total from 2,497 counties. So a quick look at the election, one would think that Trump won in a landslide. His votes came from counties 5 times the county that Biden's vote total came from. So how come? How come that could happen? A thing like that can happen. So it's obvious when you think about it. Biden won in places where there are a lot more people living in each county. So Biden won 24 states plus D.C., and Trump won 26 states. And obviously, those states didn't contain the same amount of electoral votes as the states that Biden won. And when you go into the economics of these areas that each candidate won, in Biden's winning totals, in the states that he carried 75% of the GDP of this country. And Trump carried only 25% of the GDP in this country. And if we're worried about economics, that might be something that we should consider as important as the Electoral College. Now, why? When you look deeper into this thing, why do all those red states have such a small, relatively small volume of the GDP of this country? Well, I looked into those states, and you know what the reason is? Those states are primarily states where the jobs and the work that is done in those states are in the old-fashioned industries. Old-fashioned being farming, mining, oil production, and much smaller communities and much larger rural areas exist in those states. And manufacturing, in many cases which used to be done in some of those states, is gone because of the globalization of industry, gone because we moved a lot of our plants, a lot of our manufacturing to China and to other places in the Far East, like Thailand and Singapore, places like that. So those areas suffered in several different ways. And so I think that's one of the reasons that those areas lean heavily toward the Republicans and lean heavily against immigration, because immigrants threaten those jobs. They will do those jobs, which are basically physical labor jobs, for a lot less money. And then the immigrants will take away some of the jobs that are done in those areas. So it's obvious to me that this economic divide contributes as much to the divisiveness that is going on in this country as the issues of race and ethnicity do. And it's something that I believe is being overlooked by many in position to help solve the problem of divisiveness in this country. As long as the Republicans and Democrats disagree on issues of culture and identity and power, and they continue to represent different segments of the economy, then it will be very difficult to overcome the divisiveness that's going on in this country. Until Republicans and Democrats recognize the many factors that are contributing to the divisiveness in this country, it will continue. And part of the problem could be solved, perhaps, if in these areas that have existed for centuries based upon old business practices and unskilled or minimally skilled labor aren't brought up to speed in technology and services, then this poor segment of population will hang on to their beliefs in the issues associated with race, color, and creed. And since these areas vote red, it's up to the Republican to figure out a way to reverse the hostility and indignation that exists in these states. And one major effort should be undertaken to improve the economics and standard of living in these areas. So that's it for today. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.